I punched my stepdaughter after she scared me with a prank, and now my life is in chaos. I know my title sounds bad, but please hear me out. I'm a 38-year-old man who married Judd, my wife, a few years ago. When we got together, I became a stepfather to her daughter, Abby, who was just 14 at the time. Our relationship has been okay. She respects me as her mom's husband and doesn't act bratty towards me. However, there's one significant issue. Abby has a penchant for pranks that often crosses the line. Over the years, her pranks started off harmless enough, like hiding my car keys in a box full of dubs, or even once hiding in the fridge to scare someone when they opened it. While I found some of them amusing at first, there was always an underlying concern about how far she would take it. Last week, things took a turn for the worse, and it spiraled into a situation I never expected. One evening, I came home to an empty house. Judd was working late, and Abby was supposed to be at school for extracurricular activities. I played with my dog for a bit and then decided to take care of some personal business. When I headed to the bathroom, I noticed that the cabinet window was open. At that moment, I thought nothing of it. Perhaps it was just left ajar. But as I unzipped my pants and prepared to relieve myself, something caught my eye, a shadow behind the shower curtain. My heart raced as panic set in. The thought of an intruder in my home sent adrenaline coursing through my veins. Without thinking twice, I instinctively punched the figure behind the curtain as hard as I could. To my absolute horror, it turned out to be Abby. She had set up her phone to film a prank video. I didn't hold back. My punch landed solidly on her face. The shock that followed was overwhelming. When I realized what had happened and saw her nose bleeding profusely, panic turned into sheer terror. Abby's nose looked broken, and after a few frantic moments of disbelief and guilt, I rushed her to urgent care. After informing Judd about what happened on the way to the hospital, we arrived at urgent care where they confirmed that Abby's nose was indeed broken and would need about 6 to 12 weeks for recovery. This incident shattered any semblance of normalcy in our lives. Abby wouldn't speak to me after that night. She was understandably upset and hurt. Judd had mixed feelings about my reaction. While she thought my response might have been justified given the circumstances, she also believed I should have approached the situation with more caution. However, she didn't elaborate on what she meant by that. Update: 12 days later, things escalated further than I could have imagined. It turned out that Abby's pranking nature wasn't limited to just our household. She had pulled pranks on friends and neighbors as well. In fact, her school had called Judd several times about her antics, resulting in mild vandalism or disruptions during class hours. The refrigerator prank that happened when she was only 11 years old. It involved her climbing into our brand new fridge, something my uncle had bought, and scaring whoever opened it next. Judd had yelled at her then about how dangerous that could have been. When we finally sat down to discuss what happened with Abby after the incident, we realized how serious this situation had become. The video she made didn't show anything explicit but still represented a massive invasion of privacy. Filming without consent while someone is in the bathroom is not only disrespectful, but could also lead to legal issues. After showing Judd my Reddit post about her situation and how others reacted to it, she seemed to change her mind about how we should handle Abby's behavior moving forward. We decided it was time for an intervention with Abby's friends and Jess, my cousin's wife, who is a police officer and someone Abby respects. During the intervention, each of us explained how Abby's pranks affected us personally and warned her about how close she was to crossing legal boundaries with her antics. Jess emphasized that some of these pranks could lead to serious consequences, both for Abby and anyone else involved, and that this behavior needed to stop now before it escalated further. It seemed like our words resonated with Abby. She cried during our talk and promised she would do better moving forward. After everyone left, Jess suggested sending Abby to a disciplinary camp for 6 weeks that included group therapy and constructive projects designed to help troubled teens learn from their mistakes. While Judd was all for this idea as a way to discipline Abby effectively, I felt hesitant about sending her away from home for such an extreme measure. It felt like too much too soon for a kid who needed guidance rather than isolation. Eventually, we agreed on weekly therapy instead, a decision that proved beneficial for Abby in ways we hadn't anticipated at first. She started recognizing how harmful her pranks were not just to others, but also herself. She even began volunteering locally as part of her commitment to change. Final update. Fast forward 7 months later, my marriage has taken a drastic turn since then. While therapy helped Abby improve significantly by allowing her space to reflect on her actions, it also exposed deeper issues between Judd and me that we could no longer ignore. After months of living more like roommates than partners due to unresolved tensions in our relationship prior to the incident with Abby, I issued Judd an ultimatum. We either work on our marriage through couples therapy or separate altogether. During one particularly revealing session with our therapist, Judd confessed something that hit me hard. She admitted that she loved the idea of me, but not necessarily me as a person anymore. This revelation shook me deeply. It made me realize how far apart we had grown over time. When asked if she had ever cheated on me during our marriage, she said no, but went on to explain that she felt like she settled for me because of my stable job and other superficial qualities rather than true emotional connection. That admission shattered any hope I had left for salvaging our relationship. 2 months ago, I filed for divorce after coming to terms with how unhealthy our marriage had become. Thanks to our prenup, things have been relatively smooth except for minor disputes over jewelry. Something Judd erroneously claimed was hers despite clear ownership on my part. Judd moved out along with Abby shortly after filing, but sent Abby to live with her grandparents because apparently she couldn't handle being around her right now due to everything that transpired between us. Recently, I spoke with Abby over the phone. She expressed sadness about everything happening and told me she didn't want me to leave because I was like a father figure in her life. That surprised me since I never saw myself as much more than a stepdad who did his part by providing support when needed. I reassured her that this wasn't entirely her fault, that chances are we were going to divorce regardless of what happened between us, and told her maybe when she turns 18, we can reconnect then if circumstances allow it. Life has become quieter without them, almost peaceful, but my dog still waits by the door every day for their return. It breaks my heart seeing him so confused about where they've gone.